Hello, welcome to the Reframing Mindset podcast. We are clear my head of the thoughts that are preventing clarity to practice my speech, among other things. Episodes range from informative knowledge to funny stories about my experiences, and in the future, maybe include interviews. So subscribe and enjoy. Episodes drop every other day. Okay, so welcome back to Reframe Mindset Podcast. My name is Constant Brooks. I know this episode we're going to talk about the old way versus the new way. And it's a good topic because I was, when I went to school and whatnot, I usually, the school way is the way I knew. Went to university, was a hard trial. and when I came out and the university way, the university I went to, it was the best in the country, but it was really behind the top schools in the world, like the science stuff, But it was good enough to teach us a lot of stuff. It was good enough that the degree is accredited, so it's a legit degree. Yeah. Um. So as I said, I said the new way, and every day we wake up, there's a new innovation and such like that. But throughout all these stuff, we learn about the history. Like in science, we learn about the history of how things reached the way they were. So we learn about the proponents of the people who came up with stuff and stuff like that. You have to get the idea that there was an old way. So the way we do things, like the computer that you see now, that you have now, or the phone that you have now, wasn't the phone you had 5 years ago. So there was an old way. There was a older way to do things. So the question is, which is the old switching to the new way better, or the old way stay better? So my when I left university, and I said I never really could get a job. I usually watch all these, motivational videos and such like that. I always talk about, most of the billionaire people usually talk about, oh, college isn't nothing, you should take 4 years and eat low. And, I know when I came out of university, I was really into that because, bro, I barely had any, I came out, I could get a job and such like that. So I was really like, yeah, bro, university ain't shit because but then I had no idea what my degree could get me. What way, you could just learn online and such like that. So I say, so I did the new way because I had a degree. I had a degree. I did some of the computer science courses, and I almost got a minor if I never failed one of the subjects in the third year. I would have a minor in the computer science and such like that. So, but um, once I was learning programming and I was trying to get these ideas up, but after a while, I was talking to one of my cousin who is a programmer, and I tell him about the ideas and such like that. And one of the things that he told me was like, yo, if you present these ideas to these people, they would reject it unless it's free or something like that. And it's like, so I was, telling that, oh, it's a new way. Why would they reject it? And they said, because they don't have the money and all kind of stuff. So it was giving me the reason that, which was essentially saying that, the people in power now at the school, or the area and the business people. Yeah, they do their traditional way and take a lot of things to really convince them of the new way. So that, me being very young, I have no idea could get a job or something like that, was in between a rock and a rock place. Cause so what I'm going to do. So fast forward to now, we have some experience and life experience and such like that. I my views on it now is that the old way should be acknowledged and understood and then built upon. That I say the new way now is really the new ways now are very flawed, and it's the reason for many of the problems. The things that people cry about, climate change, all kind of capitalism, all those stuff. It's the new way. It's the new way really breaking down. And why is that? It's because, one thing the old way had that really kind of may not make it better, but it was really good at relatively better at was standards. And that's one I think kind of that made science so special to itself was the standards. We have to really follow procedure and protocols. And when we say something is science, when we say it's a fact, we have to can prove it. So there were standards, and that's one of the thing that the old way kind of did when like they had standards, but the new way, for example, in programming now, like majority of the new apps are coming out. They have something called MVP, minimal viable product, where basically they push out the product with only like the sum of the features, and just so they can make enough money, so they can start making money from the product, and then over time they built out the rest of the features using the funding from the people that are using the product. So that's an example of how the new way is not really shipping out really good quality product. They're just shipping out a product just to get money. And then, you know, most of the stuff that you're getting is it has so many issues that they're just basically fixing meanwhile while trying to churn as much money from you as possible. So I said the new way is cause up a lot of the problems that millennials and Gen Z and all these people are having now. It's a new way of doing things. So my thought on it is that the old way, the new way is really uh, my thought on things now, going through what I've gone through, is that I really acknowledge the old ways. That's why in one of my previous episodes I talk about don't rush it. I want the slow road is really really efficient road. It's really efficient, and it's hard to explain why, because the thing about it is that the slow road is really hard and detail oriented and such like that. But the thing about it is that when everything is start clicking into place, there's like this exponential rise of it because everything just start clicking into place. So that's the thing with the old where I talk about the old way of doing things. Like right now where I'm at, majority of the stuff that I'm doing, like it's the old way. Like when I'm cutting the backyard, I'm using a machete. I'm not using a walker or something like that, to really cut it. I use a machete. And it's good. Um so one of the things I say about always that it's good to really experience, understand the old way to really understand why the old way to know why the new way is being done now. Like for example, washing machines. I was I was around when people usually when my family usually wash by hand, and my family was really good at washing by hand. I could not wash by I wasn't really that good, but I guess I could have learned how to do it. I kind of did do it after I left university, washing by hand. But the washing machine is a good example of why of a new way coming to replace the old way, and that being better. Cause the washing machine really saves time and stuff like that. You cannot put the clothes in it, and then you just do something else and wait and the machine finish. So that's basically a example of the new way coming and replacing the old way correctly and smoothly. You know, so that's an example. So the next thing is why I kind of say I acknowledge the old way. That where I'm at now, one thing I realize, being a home in this home owning journey is that one of the things that you realize that I'm doing is trying to get my cost of living to this base level so that when I get the income, I'm basically building up myself. So the so right now my home is relatively settled in the backyard. I'm cutting now to really clean it up, and then I have the dirt, and then I have some seeds and stuff like that. I will try to plant and see. So this first year is really me doing a lot of the old ways so that I can start building our stuff. The home is a mixture of the old way and the new way of doing things. But going through the old way made me understand why the new way it is the way it is, and why um when I get the new way, when I get the new things, I appreciate it more. When you go through the old way, understand why the old way the way it was, and then you see how the new way fix that problem, then you really appreciate it more. Like for example, um, I said the washing machine. If you are a person that wash by hand all their life, and then you get this washing machine, you don't really know how much that really changed your life. Like legit, that's basically you buying so much of your life back with that one purchase. So that's basically the essence of how um under, understanding your past really can really guide your future, because if you don't really understand your past and you keep moving on to the future, you don't really appreciate why you're in this future. So that's the first thing, and the next thing, and the old way versus new way. The next thing I more thing on the old way versus new way. Yes, I have more thing to say on the old way versus new way. One of the things that I have to say is that the why I mentioned the slow road again is because the foundation of the things are so important. Where which I really realized the foundation, like legit, like many of persons are in debt debt? No, because the foundation wasn't right. You rushed the process, and because you rushed the process, that's why now the world is in $200 trillion in debt. A lot of countries owe each other something and owe each other something. It's because right now the everybody's racing to be number one and not taking the time to really build up their way to number one. Like one of my way back episodes, I talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that the world is really unequal. You have people living in homes and mansion and such like that, and there are people homeless and basically have nothing. So you see how unequal the world is. And that's not me to be preaching about how unjust and stuff is the world is. The thing about it is that humans are not inherently good. We have our evil ways and such like that. But let's assume that we have a really good rich man, and a good rich smart rich man. You know what he would do? He have this big mansion and such like that. If he took the time and do things the old way, built up his riches through the old methods. I'm just saying this hypothetically. Through the old methods, and his foundation is built up on this old way. And then as the new way comes in, he phase out his old way of doing things and bringing in the new way. Then he can just pass down the his old riches to the one next down, and they can benefit from that, appreciate the old way, and then when they use that riches to get the new way. So as I said, that's the accurate way to really build up the the world until everybody now has a roof, shelter, and clothing, and and we don't have everybody don't really have to have the best of everything. It's just that we have the basic stuff, and that's why I said the old way is really important, because like the latest phone, everybody don't need the latest phone. Some people just need the phone to call their families and such like that. They just need a some people need the latest phone, like the new phones that are coming out now have a lot of features, and most of those features are basically for a small minority of people. They don't really need Majority of people don't really need those features. That's why I said the old way, the my initial coming into the game, I was thought that the new way is going to get better and whatnot. But going through what I've gone through now, I understand that I want to understand the old way of doing things so I can really appreciate why the new way of doing things is being done now. And as I said, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not getting any younger. I wish I have all the time in the world. Maybe I'll get all the time in the world. So, but that's one of the goals that I'm working towards, where I get to really um and back to the science stuff. One of my previous episodes, I talk about the real science that I'm talking about. That's one of the other aspects of the real science, where basically you see in the real science that I'm talking about, you see the transition from the old way to the new way, and they can see it live as to why it switched and how. You know, that's basically it. As I said the podcast is giving you that I'm doing now. It's giving you a small glimpse into the vision I have of of my life. But it will take time to turn those dreams into reality. It's slowly but surely. I'm keeping myself healthy to really try to manifest those dreams. 2023 is in a few months. I know what happened is I'm in a better mindset. I'm kind of more disciplined now, so I'm taking my time more to try to execute those stuff. And when ideally what happens is the strategy that I'm using now is I'm executing this stuff using the way the best way I know. So it may be the old way or the best way that is available to me now. Then over time, then I start to phase in to really to rebuild and see, okay, was the old way the more reliable way, or should I advance to the new way? So that's basically the strategy that I'm using now. Yeah. So that's basically it for this episode. I guess this episode was not really to it's really to yes for you to appreciate to really understand. I guess um what should I say? I guess this episode is kind of to really to get you to appreciate the new things when you get them. I guess this episode is for you to acknowledge the old ways of doing things that you have done, so that when you see the new way of doing things, so like for example, when you have the phone that you're listening to this podcast to, or the computer when you have this podcast to, this episode really to get you to appreciate that now, so that if you get a new phone with new features, then you can understand what's the difference between the old one and the new one that I have now, and appreciate the difference of the quality of stuff that you can do now with a new one. So I guess that's the basically the moral of this episode. Yeah, yeah, man. So that's it basically for this episode. Thank you for listening. I look forward for our next episode. Oh wait, I'm not. I wasn't finished. I just remember another point. Yeah, so I mentioned way back when I talk about the school system. I guess my opinion on it now is that now seeing the coronavirus pandemic and such like that, realize that the school system isn't broken. What happened now is it's fractured. It's fractured. All these um you know when I what I learned when I was younger and going through school, and then now, so when I go through school, I was back in the days, early 2000s until now, until 2018. And then when I left university, so back then going through, we were learning constant stuff. So we were learning the constant things. So like, for example, in grade one, food, shelter, and clothing, male and female, girl, boy, basic stuff. I am Pam, basic things. And then over time, you build on that. You build on that. When I leave university now with all this progressive stuff, like for example, gender neutral, he, she, they, them, these, or you see, I'm not really um comment on that. But what happened no, when I left university, what I realized is that the world is fractured. It's not all these unnatural stuff are coming in and basically disrupting the standards. So in the school now, the school is more fluid than it should be. And that's what I realize now. If I introduce it the new way, the the children coming up wouldn't really catch on to it quick. And why I mentioned that they really need to appreciate all way going to school and seeing what this pandemic now it's good for them to experience the old way of doing things, going through the normal school system, and learn the basic stuff. But over time, introducing the new things, so they have more state of the art items, but while learning the same core things. So that's my opinion on it now. Where and so that was kind of one of the main things now with the old versus the new way. The new yeah, I like to introduce a new way, so we have the state of the art stuff, but also appreciate the old way of doing things, so we understand why the new way it is now. So while also be able to discern what was bad about the old way and what the new way is trying to replace, and see if the new way is actually solving the problem or basically just a new fluff that basically was distracting us the from this what the old problem solved. So I guess that's one of the next thing about the old way versus new way topic, is that when the new things are coming in, the one of the problems that we have now is that with the millennials and the young people is coming up. I guess I'm one of them. I think I'm a millennial or Gen Z. Is that we see the new way now and don't realize where we're coming from. So we see these new things and we don't know where we're coming from. So we don't. It's like, for example, the kids now, the cartoons that are playing now. We the older generation will say, "Oh, come on, look at this trash they are watching now." You see me? You see all the trash they are watching now. Back in their days when cartoon was more fun and all those stuff, So they with that situation, one of the things that if I had a kid or whatnot, I would like them to appreciate the always. Like, for example, if they start watching anime, any one of my kids started watching anime, they have to watch Naruto, bro. They have to watch Naruto. And then not only that, have they watch Naruto, they'll start watch watch the generation that I came up from, just to appreciate where they are now. You know, just to appreciate where they are now. So that's basically the additional thing about the old way and new way. Is that there's no one is better. It's just that you need to understand, see where we're coming from to really appreciate the new way of we're doing things. Like, to see how far we're coming from to really appreciate where we are now. Like, if you don't understand how much a dollar is worth, you don't really appreciate how it feels to be a billionaire. Like, you won't appreciate or it feels to be a billionaire or a millionaire if you don't understand what that $1 is worth. When you become a millionaire, you won't feel as rich if you don't understand what that $1 means. If you understand what that power of the $1 can do, when you become a millionaire and realize you have a million of those dollars, you'll be like, wow, bro. Wow, the power of being a millionaire is so wild. So that's basically the next thing I want you to forget from it. So thank you for listening to this topic. I look forward for the next episode. Mm.
Well, this is the end of the episode. Thanks for watching and look forward for the next episode. To support this podcast, go to anchor.fm/CSSB/support or become a sponsor for this episode. If you have a product that you want to have more exposure, DM me on the Instagram page, Reframing Mindset Podcast, or on Twitter at ReframingP. Either way would help. Thank you regardless for listening, and here's a preview for the next episode.
Reading is fundamental. It's funny. I came up with a topic, and then I went to church one Sunday, and I see the sign. I see the sign. A sign says reading is fundamental. So I guess the person that I would attribute it to. I guess it was a term from long ago that he just picked up as well. you know, Yeah, so back in going through school and such like that, I always have a friend, the smarter friend, and he was, he, he was more of a reader. I wasn't a reader, and I wasn't a reader. I was more of a watcher. I like to watch shows and stuff like that. Reading was never my thing. So like when I usually study for exam and such like that, I usually just swat, just